Waiting on the confirmation.
We are live.
And I'm just waiting for my computer to finish off. That way I can close out.
Gotcha.
Actually, don't worry
Hi,
about
all.
this.
This is the pregame.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome in New Edition Batter Up Podcast, Dugout of Millwood Sports and Center Network. Mark with you. Mark, how are you?
Tired. It's late, but there's never not time to not talk about baseball.
True. And we do have some stuff to discuss. Let's start, though, with news that just broke tonight. The Cy Young Award winners for both the National and American League have been announced. Paul Skeens of the Pirates wins the National League Cy Young, and Tarek Skubal, for the second consecutive year, wins the American League Cy Young Award. So, we talked about before we got on probably the two best pitchers in baseball at the moment.
Absolutely. I know Paul Skeens had a really unbelievable year, better years than pretty much better than 70% of the league itself. However, nothing against Skeens and what he did. I still was kind of pulling for Yamamoto to win the Cy Young as he had just a brilliant year. But I guess he's pretty happy with the World Series MVP and didn't need this one.
Yeah, so Skeens had a great year. Christopher Sanchez of the Phillies had a great year. Zach Wheeler, I thought, could have been the guy had he, not had suffered what he had to go through.
Mm-hmm.
But Skeens was the guy, and then Tarek Skubal edges out Garrett Crochet, and Honor Brown. So both those guys, a night after the managers of the year, which was Pat Murphy and Stephen Vogt. So congrats to the award winners. MVP tomorrow night, and if Cal Raleigh doesn't win AL MVP, it is
Then there's something
fixed.
wrong in this world.
Well, then it's fixed. Speaking of fixing things, and that's where we're really gonna start today.
Good segue, Mike.
Oh, the Cleveland Guardians and Major League Baseball. All right. So I think most people know that during the season, Guardians closer Emmanuel Clase, along with starting pitcher Luis Ortiz, were suspended due to gambling.
Allegations
of gambling. And it has come full circle. It came full circle over the weekend with Jeff Passan saying they were bribed on pitches to call and certain other aspects. You could read the whole document there. Now Major League Baseball, and they're in a conversation, I guess, with all the sports books and whatnot. They're going to limit prop bets on pitches thrown. This is from CNN. Quote, effective immediately, all MLB authorized game operators will cap wagers on pitch level markets at $200 and exclude those bets from parlays, MLB said in a statement. So, close quote. So basically what happened is these guys were told certain pitches to throw. They threw them, and there was a kickback. And you could look into the money and whatnot, but Mark, this is just the first domino in Major League Baseball. Actually, the second, when you look at what went down, and we have to talk about it, the Shohei Ohtani thing.
Correct. I mean, they were, meaning both new pitchers, were both indicted on federal, call it what you may want. It's federal gambling charges and fixing MLB games. What is going to happen to the people who won? Absolutely nothing, because there's nothing that can be done.
Right.
So MLB is now capping it at $200. This does absolutely nothing. Okay?
Mhm.
It does not state that. I mean, not that I would like to say any other pitcher would be dumb enough, but hey, this is the newer day and age. This is just like you said, Mike, the tip of the iceberg. This is just the start, and we're going to start getting into layer after layer. Now, obviously, this is going to be at the forefront, but you're right. You have to bring up Otani. Now, going back, Ippy fell on his sword. Okay, Ippy
Mhm.
fell on his sword and is taking all the blame. I'm sure when Ippy gets out, he'll have a nice retirement package, live on an island by himself, and that'll be the end of it. You
And
can't. Sorry.
no, no, go ahead.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought you were
You
saying.
no, sorry. You can't stop, and it's never gonna happen. People from betting on games, no matter what.
Right.
And whether you stop it from, let's just say Clayton Kershaw, we're just taking a name that would never gamble, but Clayton Kershaw doesn't play the best himself, but goes to his next door neighbor and has him place the bet, and this guy's not. These are the type of things that we're gonna start seeing more and more, are ghost betting, so to speak.
Go to football for a minute. Calvin Ridley got suspended for a whole year. He didn't place the bets. His buddy placed the bets, but they recognized Calvin Ridley was making the money or whatever it was. And
Right. And it was because he was in his team facility when he did it.
well, he was hurt. Jameson Williams was because of the team facility.
Right. I mean,
The, regardless,
right.
this is so stupid on the players who are doing the game. And listen, I get certain guys because they don't make a lot of money and they think that this could help their career. It's not going to help you.
And Emmanuel Clase was one of the top
Emmanuel
relievers in
Clase was the
baseball.
best closer in baseball. He was getting Cy Young votes a year ago, and
Yep.
now he's going to be out of baseball and facing jail time.
Hmm.
And it opens up a couple of different cans of worms. The first can of worm it opens is because Clase, I believe, had just signed an extension.
Yes.
Which, by the way, Cleveland's a team that doesn't spend a lot of money. So when we look forward into that next CBA talks, which, by the way, there's been talk so far between the Players Association and MLB. Hopefully, there won't be a lockout in 2027. But this is one of the things. A smaller market teams can say, "I just got burned on a deal because of the gambling situation."
Yep.
Meanwhile, we watch a game. What's every commercial? Bet 365, ESPN Bet,
Hmm.
Bet MGM. Then there's a car insurance commercial for some reason. But
And then we're back to FanDuel and DraftKings.
right, exactly. All not a sponsor. You're welcome, Patchy.
Yes.
But I think what's going on, and I don't think this is just a baseball problem. I think this is a sports problem. All of these leagues right now are in bed with these betting companies.
Right.
And there are kickbacks to these leagues. And there's some sort of agreement between the two parties. And the problem is this: MLB's making money. The people who place the bets are making the money. Who's not making the money? Players. And by the way, I hate to be this guy, but what's to stop umpires? Hey, I'm going to put 20 down on you brought up Kershaw. I'm going to put $20 down. Kershaw can't strike out more than 4 guys tonight. And I'm behind the plate. So now I have a direct incentive to not give Clayton Kershaw a close pitch.
Yep.
And I control the fate. This is just where we're going, and it's just a weird spot for everyone, the leagues, the players. And I think and I hate being this guy, but I think there has to come a point in time where the leagues have to say, you know what? As nice as the money is, the integrity of the game is being questioned. Luis Ortiz and Emmanuel Clase are just the first two shoes to drop. And
Right.
let's be honest, they're shoes 2 and 3 because the Otani news. Now, Otani, we don't know if Mitsuhara was gambling on baseball. We don't know. We know he's gambling
Mhm.
on other sports. But where is that line that we could draw? In all these sports, it's not just baseball. Rob Manfred said in a statement Monday, this is still that CNN article, quote, he commended, quote, the industry for working with us to take action on a national solution to address the risks posed by these pitch level markets, which are particularly vulnerable to integrity concerns, close quote. Well, there's still going to be concerns. I don't care that you cap it at $200. I just think at some point we have to say, you know what? Baseball is still a multi-billion-dollar industry. And I feel like I'm running in circles by keep saying it. You might have to kick these sports betting things to the curb and just leave it to the fans who want to do it. And listen, if a player wants to gamble and throw their life away and their career away, that's their prerogative.
Agreed. There has to become a general consensus on what is allowed and what is not allowed. And this has to, like Mike said, this has to be congruent of all major league sports. And let's be honest, any sport that can show up on any of these platforms. If you are part of that league, you should not be allowed to be placing bets or be connected to replacing any bets within your respected league. If you're Calvin Ridley and you want to bet a Shohei Ohtani's going to hit a home run, different sport, fine. If not, then no major league athlete is allowed to gamble on any of the blank platforms. You want to gamble, you got to go to Vegas and go right to the sports book itself.
So Clase and Ortiz face charges on multiple counts of wire fraud conspiracy, conspiracy to influence sporting contests by bribery, money laundering conspiracy, and more, according to prosecutors. Both have maintained their innocence through their lawyers. Uh,
Until they take a plea deal.
Luis Ortiz's lawyer told CNN in an email, quote, there's no credible evidence. Luis knowingly did anything other than try to win games with every pitch and in every inning, close quote. Look, and he looks forward to fighting the charges in court. Look, I hope they're right. I hope Clase and Ortiz are right. There is no evidence against them and they can figure out what went wrong. I'm a cynic here. I don't believe them. Not because I don't want to believe them, because I do. I just think for all of this to be made up is just it's hard for me to think that all of this is made up.
Mm-hmm.
Very hard for me to feel this way. And Class A, we talked about Class A for a minute. Cy Young votes, All Star. I mean, this guy had it all, and he had a bad year. And now you kind of wonder if this kind of thing impacted his season. Was he
Absolutely.
throwing games? Was he trying to be Roger Dorn? Roger Dorn wouldn't, dive for the ball to help Rick Vaughn out. I mean, this is just it's as frustrating for the fans, I think, than it is for the league, and that it is for the Players Association. Because here's the other thing about a guy like Clase. He's a guy who's going to sell jerseys. and
Mm-hmm.
you're going to make money off that. And again, money that could go into payroll and stuff like that. So we'll keep posted on what's going on, but I am not. And you could probably talk a little bit more about it than I can,
Mm.
just based on the fact of I don't belong to any of these apps.
Right.
I do the old. If I'm going to gamble, I do it the old-fashioned way. Find a bookie who's bad at playing billiards and help them. No, um, I just stick to fantasy sports. I don't really gamble. So, anything else you want to add to it?
No, I mean, like Mike said, I hope maybe there's a sliver of chance that these guys are proven innocent, but it ain't looking that way.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. We'll keep everyone updated. But here's the other thing that's for sure: they both probably have thrown their last pitch in Cleveland. They
End of
both have
Major
probably
League
thrown their
Baseball.
last pitch in baseball for a long time.
Yes.
All right. So the general manager meetings are going on now, and next month the winter meetings, which we will have covered, everything covered winter meetings. Mark and I have talked about what we want the Mets to do this winter. So I figured, hey, instead of putting this all through text and articles, let's podcast it. Let's YouTube live it. Let's podcast it and see how other people feel, because we both have differing opinions, and I think that is something that is good. We probably have a lot of similarities, but we probably also have differences. So I want to start with, I think, is the number one priority for both of us. And we get it. The Mets are going to have to upgrade the starting rotation. We'll get into it. They're going to have to get into Edwin Diaz. We'll get into that. I want to start with Pete Alonso,
Okay.
because this is the second straight winter where Pete's a free agent. And David Stearns basically said yesterday, look, he called Pete a great Met, love to have him back, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Kind of like, yeah, I'm going to talk the guy up. I don't think we let's split this into two parts. The first part is we both want Pete Alonso back. The question is, what are you comfortable with in terms of term and money? Because there was the report right after the season, Pete's going to want 7 years. And I don't think either one of us is willing to go that far.
And I don't think that was directly from Pete himself. I think that was Boris.
Mm-hmm.
I think Boris, look, Pete Alonso's going to be 32 before the season starts. You're not going to pay him until he's 39. He's not going to last that long. Even if he switches to DH, he ain't making it to 39.
Mm-hmm.
So the question becomes is obviously Pete needs to be a Met. It's no longer a matter of want, it's need. So Pete needs to be a Met. The question is, how much are you going to put into the fact that he's going to be your first baseman? And then figure maybe in his last couple of years, he goes to DH. I would be very comfortable with giving him a 5-year, $200 million contract with a team option for a sixth.
So basically 6 for 200. Well, 5 for 200 with an option. So
And whatever that option may be, probably around between 30 and 40 million is probably where it would be.
so let me just do it. I hit clock instead of calculator on my phone, so I apologize. So 200 divided by 5 is 40. So that's 40 million per year. Which,
yes, that's a lot. But if you want to compare Pete Alonso to anybody, it's his counterpart in the Bronx.
Well, I don't even think that's fair. Like, let's look at first baseman for a minute as a whole, the position. Freddie Freeman, when he got paid, I think was more older than 32, but Freddie got paid. Now, albeit Freddie's a better player.
Yes.
Freddie's better contact hitter. Freddie's better defender. No one is denying Freddie.
No.
Matt Olson got paid in Atlanta. I think they're probably around the same age. I don't think Olson would be that much older. I'm just guessing there. Olson, not the average hitter. He's more power guy. So I think where we're at is I'm okay with 5 and 200 for Pete. And I think the part of me that says I need David Stearns to do it. One is the year Pete had last
Yes.
year, because 37 homers just doesn't grow on trees. But think about this: you have a 3-4 of Pete Alonso and Juan Soto. That's as dynamic as you can get.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can focus on a lot of other parts. And Pete last year dragged until February. That's not going to happen this year.
No, and that was also because of the year he had before.
Right. And rightfully so. He had a phenomenal year this year. And the other part is this: he's not attached to the qualifying offer.
Correct.
So there are other teams. I've heard many people say the Red Sox, although I think that's really just mean of people to say. But who's to stop a team like the Angels from throwing money around, or the Rays if he wants to go home? My thing is this: you pay Pete Alonso not just because he's been a great Met. You pay Pete Alonso because he's a homegrown Met, and you pay Pete Alonso because eventually number 20 will go up next to number 5.
Exactly.
And the Mets haven't had a homegrown star their whole career. Tom Seaver was not a Met his whole career.
No, he was not.
Yeah, so all the great Mets you want to think of, the only guy who stuck it out was David Wright. And
I mean,
that's why we want Pete Alonso to stay.
Right. Number 20 belonged at first base. And if you're doing it for anything, the morale in that clubhouse when he, Soto, Lindor are at their highest, it's one of the best clubhouses in baseball. When they were obviously going through their demise this year, they're free falling.
Great.
It was not such a
song.
Yes, it was not what it was. So yes, Pete is definitely got to be taken care of and fast.
And here's the other thing, because you just talked about the choke job, the collapse, the demise, the whatever, the LOL Mets, whatever the hell you want to call it, what happened at the end of the year. That left a bad taste in the fans' mouth. Forget David Stearns, forget Steve Cohen, the fans. And now you have to redeem the fans. I mean, like, how do we get people to sell out Citi Field? Because last year we set an attendance record and we still didn't make the damn playoffs.
Right.
So now how do we get the fans back in our good graces? This is step one. Pete is step one. And if it's 5 for 200 with an option for a 6th, by the way, here's the other thing. If Pete's not back, who's playing first base?
Right now, if the ball would have rolled there, no one's there to stop it.
Right, like are we? I don't want to hear Mark Vientos is playing first base
No.
because right now I will get into Mark Vientos in a few minutes, but that's a guy right now who I would put on a pressure seat or a hot seat, you call it. Are you going to trade for a guy like Christian Walker, who's got a couple of years left, but his power numbers are not going to be helpful at City Field? Getting
No.
older. Who comes in there and solves that problem? I'm not going to put that on Ryan Clifford yet if he's not ready.
No. The Mets need a DH, and Mark Vientos is not the answer unless Mark Vientos somehow magically reemerges from what he was 2 years ago. And I don't see that happening, unfortunately.
I
I
think,
think for Vientos, he's going to become a trade victim in this offseason.
and we'll get into that in a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah.
So we're both in agreement. We want Pete back. And I think the same thing could be said of Edwin Diaz.
I know they offered the qualifying offer
Just
to
give him the
Diaz.
same deal he just had
Mm-hmm.
and just tack on a couple of years. I
Yeah.
don't think it's that hard.
You can't take the trumpets out of that stadium.
Like, and by the way, he's the best in the league. He is the best closer in all of baseball. You're gonna let that go over a couple of $1 million? Can't
If it
happen.
was the Wilpons, I would probably say, yeah, this is what's going to happen. Steve Cohen's auctioning off his golden toilet to be able to deal with this.
And by the way, Stern said yes, or I should say this for when it's uploaded. Stern said on Tuesday they've both been great Mets, and we'd love to have them both back. Put your money where your mouth is.
Yep.
Because I don't think you do anything else right now until those two guys are taken care of. If Kyle Schwarber is still out there, I don't care.
Right.
Because Kyle Schwarber is not going to be a Met. I hate to put the only way Schwarber's a Met is if Pete's not here.
Right. And no offense to Schwarber, we know what the man can do with the bat, but it does not put a able body at first base.
Right. He doesn't have a position. And the Mets actually have a couple of guys who don't have positions. So that's going to be a problem anyway. And by the way, we'll both talk about revamp bullpen, the rotation, but we're both in Pete and Diaz return. So I'm going to turn it to you. What's the next thing you would put on the David Stern's to-do list?
Is to sit down and find out how much these stories are true on the length apart between Tarek Skubal and the Detroit Tigers. And the reason why is this. If it is such as the numbers were being floated, we're talking $200 million, and that's a lot for the Detroit Tigers.
Yeah.
The Detroit Tigers are not afraid to spend money, as they spent money on Miggy, they have spent money on Scherzer. It wasn't that much of a problem, but they cannot do it more than one player. And that's a big issue. So, are the Tigers a big threat to get back to the playoffs next year? Absolutely. Can they lock up Skubal? They can, but not for the money that they're going to be able to spend. So if I'm the Mets,
well, let's rephrase that. If Chris Ilitch is willing to spend the money, because Mike Ilitch who was the owner, spent the money on Miggy and
right.
Scherzer. He unfortunately passed away. This is his son who owns the team.
Right. And what is Skubal's number? I have to think it's somewhere around where Vladdy pretty much got. And you're talking about $500 million for a guy who is not even in his prime yet. He's still a youngster with much to learn, but still much to learn, and he's winning a Cy Young already.
Two of them.
If right, if the price is not cut off the Mets' legs, you have to at least entertain an offer and try to come up with something to get Tarek Skubal over here.
So let me ask you, forget the money for a minute. Because it's not
Okay.
just going to cost you in terms of money, it's got to
Oh
be a
no.
trade.
Right. So you have to look as one of the you would have to figure it's going to either be Jonah Tong or Brendan Sproat will be part
Yep.
of that because they're going to want a major league ready pitcher. And no offense, the Mets don't have many of them, and they're not going to give a guy who's like David Peterson who only has a
Well,
couple years. They're
they
going to
may
want
want a
control.
major league ready on
Well, right, but I'm just saying in Jonah Tong or Brendan
Sprout.
Sproat, they're going to have control more. They're going to
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of control. They're gonna want a abled body at bat, and that's where you have to float Vientos,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not it. You think
It's pro.
no,
Yeah.
it's gonna cost you another name, and it guts me to say because I'm very high on this guy. It could be Ronnie Mauricio.
I see. I was thinking another younger guy. I was thinking Jet Williams.
See, I don't think it would be because Jet Williams is penciled in as their center fielder this year.
We have a little bit of a difference on who will play center field next year, but I'm just saying
Yeah,
I have on my list the next thing would be the Scooble deal too,
yeah.
and I
If it
think
can be done,
hmm?
if it can be done.
Right, like if you know Detroit's not in, or Detroit's heart is set on we're gonna try. And by the way, this is Detroit's kind of last chance because you trade him at the trade deadline, you're not getting anything because
Right.
everyone at the world is going to know he's leaving.
Exactly.
So
So
this is
if
Detroit's last chance. Like if they can't get this done, they may have to move on.
and unless Detroit wins the World Series, he isn't staying.
Right. And so they got a lot to prove here. And here's the thing for me on Scoop, because I've heard other people talk about, well, you could trade for a guy like Joe Ryan of Minnesota, or you could trade for Pablo Lopez, also of Minnesota. And to be honest with you, those guys don't excite me. And listen, the dream would be Paul Skeens. That would be the dream. That's not happening.
At least for a couple of years, at least.
Right. Or someone said, well, you could trade for Freddie Peralta. Like, okay, Freddie
Nah.
Peralta's a good pitcher. Tarek Skubal's a game changer.
Eric Klubel would be the ace of
Right.
this club.
And this team, forget an ace. This team doesn't have a number one starter.
No. And that's the big key why I have Skubal so high up.
Yeah, I think that we're both there. So
I mean, because right behind him, you have to figure Kodai Senga and David Peterson are going to be there at 2 and 3. You got Manaya, who, whatever. And then you got that fifth spot. The question is, after 2, you got Clay Holmes still in the mix. You got plenty of names, but there's still need.
and here's the thing, Clay Holmes. Let me start with Clay Holmes because you brought him up first. My thing on Clay Holmes is this: he just threw a career high in innings, and we kind of saw the wall he hit
Yeah, towards the end.
towards the end. I'm kind of okay with Clay Holmes being used as maybe a bulk guy off of an opener. I'm not sure I want Clay Holmes making 32 starts. Again,
And that I agree with you on.
and then to continue on, Senga, we could talk about. They think he's in the rotation. There's also rumors he could be traded. I don't think that. I don't think that's
They're
happening.
not trading him.
I think the guy they were most likely to deal, unless David Peterson would go in a deal like this, would be Minaya. Because I think Sean Minaya, as good of a year as he had 2 years ago, he just didn't have it this year. And
He was injured. I mean, we're not going to take that away from
no,
him.
no,
Can't
he was
ignore
hurt.
that.
But I
But he
also
was
think that,
he was a shell of himself.
and the other part is this, the development of Nolan McLean.
Yeah.
Nolan McLean is probably in this rotation at the start of the
It-
year.
I mean, he can easily be your number two.
Now, unless Minaya or even Clay Holmes, if one of them's willing to go be maybe a long man in the bullpen, which I'm okay with that also, if they want to do that, because the bullpen is going to need some reinforcements. We'll get it.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, we're on the same page on trading for Scooble. All right. I will jump in next.
Okay.
We have the Mets have to take something out of this core. This core hasn't won. They haven't done anything. And we both want Pete back. Francisco Lindor is locked in. Soto's locked in. Brandon Nimmo's got a no trade clause. He's not going anywhere.
Okay.
The guy I think the Mets have to move off of is Jeff McNeil.
And as much as I would hate to see him go, he has not been the same since that his All-Star appearance and Silver Slugger year.
Yeah, look,
Um,
this is a guy
there's
who
talk
won
of
a
putting him
batting
in
title.
center field, which makes no sense to me.
He's a guy who could play all three outfield spots. He plays second base. Might be able to even give you some reps at third if need be, but he's not the guy who hits 300 anymore, and he's not a guy who is this elite defensive player. And
Right.
I think if you're the Mets, because you could kick Beatty over to play second, you could kick Mauricio to play second, Luis Angel Acuna could play second, Edgardo Alfonso could come back and play second, and Jeff McNeil, as his versatility is going to get you something nice in a trade. So I would trade McNeil, whether that's for a controllable reliever or another starter. That's the guy I think you have to move off of.
And again, Jeff McNeil has been a big Mets favorite over the last few years. Kind of almost like Daniel Murphy kind of was. But there's a time where you have to move on, like Mike said. And Jeff McNeil fits that solution. I mean, yes, his glove is good, but he's turning into that. I mean, the second half of his year was much better, but he's turning in that automatic out guy again, and that's not what the Mets need.
And saying that, he hit into some bad luck, but listen, the shift being banned hurt him because he was a guy who
Mm-hmm.
was very much against the shift. And then for some reason, he turned into a power hitter. And then it just became,
Mm-hmm.
inconsistencies. And so McNeil would be a guy I would move off of. And honestly, I would do. I'm just going to dive into my next one. You don't mind because you could
Yeah.
do a contract for contract. Move Jeff McNeil. I'll move him to St. Louis because I got my third baseman in St. Louis, and this is going to be the hot take of maybe this whole thing. I would trade for Nolan Arenado.
This is where Mike and I differ.
Right,
So we're
like
gonna let Mike go first.
Arenado is the greatest defensive third baseman of my lifetime.
Fair enough.
I can't say he's better than Brooks Robinson. I wasn't alive. Sorry. But David Stearns talked about this during his end of the year press conference. Run prevention. Well, how do you prevent runs? You play pretty good defense. Nolan Arenado is almost like a vacuum cleaner at third base. And he's only got 2 years and $31 million left on his contract. And so if I could play Arenado at third, kick Beatty to second, and Nolan Arenado is not going to cost you in prospects or even that much in cash. It's probably a contract for contract where it's McNeil or Manaya or Senga or a cardboard cutout of Albert Pujols. Nolan Arenado is the Mets' third baseman, in my opinion, makes way too much sense.
For me, look, take no doubt from what Mike said. Nolan Arenado is probably one of the best third basemen I've ever watched play the game. However, there was a name I was very hungry on last year, and he went to the Boston Red Sox. He just opted out, and that's Alex Bregman. Alex Bregman's 32 years old. He's already said he does not want a 9, 10 year contract. Well, let's say it. No one's going to pay him until he's 42 years old. Bregman can be, after the resurgence he had offensively and defensively in Boston, I think he can be had for a 3 year deal. Now, not at the cheapest expense, so to speak, at 31 million. I mean, that's a gift in Arenado's term. But I think for the Mets and Bregman, they can get away with a 2 year with an option for a third at maybe 60. I know that's a lot of money. Bregman brings something that Arenado does not, and Bregman's bat. Now, one thing Mike and I have talked about this before, and one thing we both agreed on is Bregman's power numbers might drop, meaning home run numbers because of Citi Field dimensions. But Bregman is a gap to gap hitter, and those alleyways get deep. And what would be a double in most parts are a triple at Citi Field. And Bregman's not as great as a third baseman as Arenado, but he's damn well up there.
But here's the thing on Bregman, because you're right, he's not going to get 7, 8, whatever. But are they really going to pay him, Pete, Diaz, Scooble? Are they going to be able to do that? I think with Arenado, at least you're moving a contract off and it's still reacquiring money, but it's also money that comes off the books and reacquire.
And
By the
I
way,
don't
I didn't
disagree
do
with you
anything on
there
the
being economically sound.
yeah.
I don't disagree with you there. This is something that Mike and I have been talking about since the Mets were done. I mean, this has been a back and forth, and usually it goes around in a circle because we always mention the same shit every week. But if I had my pick, of course I would love Arenado at third. I want Bregman. But you want to know something? There's another guy out there who we're not even discussing yet, and
Yeah.
we will.
No, look,
That's
dive in.
Dante Bichette, and that's Dante Bichette, who can also play third, who will not cost you any trade, but he wants an 8 year deal. And how many of these deals can Steve Cohen afford to give out? Because we've already seen what happens with the Padres. It doesn't work.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. If it's Bichette, Bichette can play second, he can play third, you know. So either way, you're kicking over Beatty. The thing that Bichette does for this team, and I think it's very interesting on how they would divvy up the lineup. You could hit Bichette lead off, move Lindor down a spot, move Soto down a spot, move Pete to clean up. It kind of deepens the lineup as opposed to Arenado, who his offensive numbers are going down because he's getting older. But you also know you're getting him more for his defense and hopefully banking on some of these young guys getting better.
Right.
So it's a
Exactly.
very interesting debate. There's also Ketel Marte apparently in Arizona who could be had. And I told you
Who,
this
but
yesterday.
he's
I
going to
want,
cost, right. And he's going to cost heavy. And I don't think if the Mets want to be serious about anything else, they can actually entertain that at all.
yeah, no offense to Ketel. I have another Marte who I'm not opposed to bringing back.
I would if it's on a friendly contract, I would consider him for a DH slash outfield.
We'll keep getting
We'll
into
get into that. Yeah.
get into it. All right, so we went through third. Uh, so I'm going back to the rotation for my next two because we just talked about the Mets didn't have an ace, and to me, there's a guy out there, and he's attached to the qualifying offer, and I wanted him at the trade deadline, and I still want him now. And I love Dylan Cease, but Dylan Cease had a really bad year. Not really interested. Zach Gallen is the guy.
And Mike has been very high on Zach Gallen for a while,
And I
and there's
blame my
no.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I blame myself, Zach Gallen, for your bad year last year because I thought you were the guy who was going to win the National League Cy Young just based on the presence of Corbin Burns.
One thing about Zach Allen is he's a workhorse, and that
Yep,
is something the Mets
don't have.
have not had in a long time. They don't have. I mean, besides David Peterson, there wasn't many other Mets pitchers who went past 7 innings at all.
Outside of outside of Holmes and Peterson, did another starter hit a
I
hundred?
don't.
Hit like 100 innings? I mean, Mania
I
definitely.
don't. And we know Senga didn't because he missed, whatever. Um, for Gallen, I would love. I've talked. We Mike and I are both very high on Dylan Cease, but yes, the numbers he put up this year are concerning, especially when you're talking a quote unquote contract year. The two names that I have been high on, one of them is Michael King,
Mm-hmm.
and he's not an ace. He's a good middle of the rotation guy who's not always going to get you 7+ innings, but he'll give you six. He's not a 10 strikeout a game guy. He gets you about five. But what he does do is he keeps the ball on the ground. And that's something Mets pitchers did not do, as more balls went in the air and out of the park than we ever wanted to honestly talk about. Michael King is definitely one high name. If I'm going to make a trade for a pitcher and I cannot have Scooble, I want to go a more cheaper way. And when I say cheaper, it's still going to cost the Mets a little bit, but I want Sandy Alcantara. Let's
And
bring
that's going to cost you because it's in the division.
Yes, I'm not saying it's going to be free. I'm saying that could be a straight up trade, McNeil, something like that. It would give the Marlins a hitter that they don't have. It would help replace Luis Arias when he departed for San Diego. Give them that second baseman back. Alcantara's not done. He
No, he
had
was
a
awesome in the second half.
he was great in the second half.
Yeah.
Can he play in New York? And that's the question that for every player who stepped into the stadium, the same question's asked. I think he can handle the pressure in New York.
And we both feel that way about Scoop.
Mm-hmm.
You know, see, I also went for another guy. And I know David Stearns likes his reclamation projects. So I gave him two of them. And it's a choice for him. One of America's greatest comics, all time, Carrot Top. You, Dustin May on a 1 year deal does not hurt. I think
Nope.
he's a guy who still has electric stuff. And the guy I've been banging the door on for the last 2.5 years, Alek Manoah. The Jays basically cut him.
Yeah.
If you think you can get him right, those two guys, or one of those two guys, as your number five, or even the number six, if you need to go to a six man, I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with taking a shot on Manoa. Let him have a chance. Let's see what he can do. Is he fully healed? Is he
Yeah, either
ready to
one.
pitch?
You're taking a chance on either one of them.
Right.
And that's why I'm saying it's got to be incentive laden. Maybe it's 4 or 5 million bucks, and then incentivize it maybe to 10 million. And you know Dustin May can pitch at a big market. He pitched for the Dodgers.
The other name that I'm looking at is a Stern's favorite, and that's Brandon Woodruff. He came back last year from Tommy John surgery. He's a free agent. He reportedly wants a 3-year deal in around the $35-40 million range. That's not a lot for a guy, especially coming back after Tommy John surgery, who actually did not have a all-star second half, but he pitched effectively. I think he would work well in this rotation.
What you could do is you could piggyback Woodruff and Holmes together.
Absolutely.
And maybe that's an idea too. So as I continue my list, we talked about center field earlier. The Mets are going to tender a contract reportedly to Tyrone Taylor. So right now, Tyrone Taylor's your center fielder, which is fine. He's a really good defensive player. Offense, we can use some. And Stern said yesterday Carson Benj could be in play for center field.
And that's the biggest problem for me.
But that's not where I'm leaning. We talked about center field at the deadline and went Cedric Mullins. I'm going, Mark. I think it's time to just pull the trigger and give me Luis Robert. It's $20 million this year. It's $20 million option next year. 2 years, $40 million for a guy who can really change the dynamic. I'm okay with that because it frees up Tyrone Taylor a little bit to also play some left field because Brandon Nimmo is no longer an everyday outfielder.
No, he's not a 162 guy anymore. My problem with what Stern said this morning, and look, I like Carson Benj. I like his minor league stats. Obviously, we have not really gotten a taste of him in the major leagues much. The problem is, and I brought him up earlier, is Jet Williams has not only climbed from all the way from low A to triple A in probably as fast as players as Beatty, Vientos, Alvarez. And maybe that gives you a little hesitation, especially as it's been shaky. For the Mets, I do not see going. If you're gonna make a move, I can also understand you have Carson Benj. My move is to go after Harrison Bader. Bring him back. Let him work with Jet Williams in center field. Help Jet Williams get ready for next year. Bader will cost you what? Between 10 and 13 million. Maybe you get him on a 2-year deal just to have him as a utility.
2 years, 20.
Yeah.
Same thing as Robert, basically.
And to me, it would be a safety valve. As you have, look, we don't know what Jet Williams can do in the major leagues yet. He's not taking a swing. But we have seen this kid field, and we've seen this kid run. And his first name should be after the Sandlot, Benny the Jet, because this kid can fly, and they've already timed it. He's faster than Reyes.
And here's the other part. Like, Jet Williams can play a part in this. Maybe he goes to left field. And maybe Nimmo, they think about DHing, but center field's a hole. DH has also been a hole. And we talked about that before with Pete. And eventually Pete's going to have to learn the position of DH. That being said, I'm okay again going a platoon like they tried with Darren Ruff and Daniel Vogelback.
I remember that.
And even last year, it was supposed to be Winker and Marte. Winker just got hurt and was out all year.
Correct. Marte, had a nice recovery year from the 2 years prior.
And if Marte's willing to give you a 1 year incentivized, maybe it's 2 to 5 million, and then you can incentivize it. Because I think Marte's also good for the clubhouse.
Yes. And I think he's a good situational placement, no matter what part you do it in.
And I would pair him up with the best contact hitter in the game right now.
And you're going to go Luis Arias.
I'm going Luis Arias. And the Mets have so much swing and miss in their lineup. It's
Oh, you're not wrong there.
it's refreshing to have a guy put the ball in play. And here's the thing about Arise. He's not going to win you any gold gloves, but he can play second base if Beatty needs a break. He can play first if Pete needs a day. There's versatility in that. And he can hit 330. And
Oh,
by the way, he's the perfect number two hitter with Lindor. You could hit and run. And you know they're going to have to leave that hole open in case Lindor does want to run. You
and you
can
can
do little,
recreate the Ricky Henderson Roger Cedeno play.
yeah,
Basically, Lindor gets on, he steals second, and then Arias plays him.
right. And right, and that sets the table for Soto and Alonso. Luis Arias just deepens this lineup.
He would definitely be a good fit for this Mets team. My only thing is that if you consider him as a DH, and let's just say he's not cutting it, you already have three second basemen on that team. You're not going to use him as a second baseman.
Right, but I could also play him at first base. He played first base for the
Right,
Padres.
well, right. I'm just saying you have to. I mean, the one thing you have to remember is, not you have to remember. You know this. One thing that everybody has to remember: there's only so many people you can have on a roster at once.
And the other thing is this. Uh, and Stearns talked today about Mauricio's option. They didn't send him down, even though he wasn't playing, because it was his last option. So he's going to be there. But Acuna still got options. Acuna might have to start the year in AAA.
And I think that's going to be the best. And the person that should be starting second base should be Mauricio. Look, I understand Beatty is a versatile third base, second base guy. But even David Stern said this morning is that Beatty is going to be leaned on hard at third base, which says to me that's the end of Mark Vientos.
So, and that also could mean Mauricio could also be the DH, and you platoon him in a guy like Arise, and that just means Starling Marte. Maybe he signs a contract, but he's a guy who plays very sparingly,
Yep.
and
You
that
sign him to a team friendly deal to,
1 year,
as a
2 million.
morale booster, so to speak.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens there. And then my last move, and I only put this down because I got the alert that it happened, and I got really excited because I don't get excited for bullpen arms. Pete Fairbanks, the former closer of the Rays,
I saw he was put up.
his option
Not
was
put up
turned
today.
down. I'm all in for Pete Fairbanks being my eighth inning guy to set up Edwin Diaz.
I don't disagree there. I think he would be a great fit. I think he would be a great bridge gap to get to Diaz, as long as they resign him, of course.
And if
But
they don't, Fairbanks is a good option.
of all, I mean, when we look at bullpen of what was traded for and what they're gonna keep, of everything they gained last year, Taylor Rogers needs to be kept. I don't think there's a better seventh inning guy than him, depending on who's up, obviously.
No, no.
And then and Gregory Soto. Those are the two guys I would
You
aim
would
to
keep
keep.
Soto?
Yes.
You know
Look,
what? Soto gives you a third lefty. That's not a bad idea.
no, I mean, I know the situationalness of having a lefty in the bullpen doesn't always come to fruition, but this guy has pitches. Yeah, he got hit around a little bit. I'm not going to say he didn't, but when this guy is on, he's unhittable.
And he's cousins with Juan, and that'll help him too. But he also would allow AJ Minter a little bit more time to recover off his injury. Minter
Correct.
opted into his deal. So Minter and Rayleigh are already locked in from the left.
Yeah.
So if you bring in Soto, it's another high leverage guy. If you want to bring in a Fairbanks, even keeping Rogers, the Mets would have some high leverage arms in the pen, which would be something David Stearns really wants.
Now, if you're following bullpen news, I'm going to butcher the guy's name, so I'm not even going to say it. The reliever out of Japan was posted. It will be posted, I believe it
Ime,
is. Yeah, will be posted
he's a
as of tomorrow
starter.
morning. Okay, not bullpen. As a starter will be posted as of tomorrow. Again, you got Murakami, who is currently fielding interest from the two teams that we thought he was going to be interest from, and that's the Yankees and the Dodgers. This other kid is supposedly linked and is very good friends and family with Kodai Senga. Kodai Senga has been asked by Steve Cohen to be the recruitment. Mind you, kid's 27 years old, throws a 192 ERA. Again, this is Japan. This isn't the major leagues yet. But if he's anywhere like like Yamamoto, then yes, I would be for the Mets going after this kid now.
And look, the Mets have options. That's basically what this was about. And what we want from David Stearns here, or I shouldn't talk for both of us, but after what happened at the end of the year, which was unacceptable,
Mm-hmm.
the Mets need to be aggressive here. And so Pete coming back. And if Pete doesn't come back, there has to be some sort of plan, whether it's a trade, maybe it's bringing in Cody Bellinger,
Well,
which has been
that was
discussed.
the other name I had penciled in. If look, Pete is my number one. If Pete is not available, the next best thing, I mean, I hate to even say that, the next best name out there would be Bellinger because he would play well with that right field park.
And the other part is this, though, with Bellinger, you do become a little left-handed heavy.
Mm-hmm.
So, which might mean you have to keep Vientos, maybe move off of Beatty, but again, that is
There's a lot of moving parts
there's
that
a
have to
lot of moving
play.
parts to all of this. But free agency is upon us.
Oh yeah.
We'll see what happens here. The Mets have a plethora of options to go through.
Mm-hmm.
And we both started at the top saying we both want Pete and Edwin Diaz back. The third thing we mentioned was the rotation. And if the Mets, okay, so if you could have one of these things, only one, off of what we talked about, what is the one thing you truly want out of the offseason?
Skubal. I want Tariq Skubal. I want him traded, signed for, and extensionized so that he doesn't go anywhere.
You want Scooble.
I want Skubal.
If there's anything I want out of this offseason, it would be bring back Pete. And I say that because Scooble would be great. Any other starter would be great. But if you don't score, you can't win.
This is very true. However, just to point out, the Mets did put up a lot of 9 spots, but they kept on losing 11-9.
Well, and that's the other part. The starters just didn't go deep into games.
And the bullpen, as great as it started out, was weighed on too heavily and the collapse.
Or you're Ryan Helsley and you just never came through.
Oh, God. So upsetting about that, too.
Watch, he's going to kill it wherever he is next year.
Yeah.
All right. That'll do for this edition of Batter Up Podcast, sponsored by the Dugout of Millwood. Mark, anything on the dugout?
Now we're entering in holiday time. Now I got to think about what I'm getting these guys as gifts. And it usually is always good because they always get autographs. So
a cardboard cutout of a real NFL coach would be nice.
Oh, so you want McDaniel? You want a big, nice, life-size cutout of McDaniel right in your bedroom? Got it.
Actually, no, that's what I was going to give my father.
All
right. Check out the website, thesportsinsidernetwork.com. Blogs will explain streets and automobiles. We're live on YouTube now. Check out the YouTube page for other stuff. And check out the podcast wherever you get your podcast. Check out the socials. Twitter, S Insanity Now, S Insanity Real, Facebook, Sports Insanity Network. We'll talk to you again probably at the winter meeting, so it's a couple of weeks away.
You got it.
It's goodbye.